Unless you've been hiding underneath a rock, you've probably seen some of the news that has come out about the Bricks and Minifigs scandal. So today we're going to be breaking that down and why this is a scandal that every business owner should look into. This is Dollars Lifestyle and Charity, a finance podcast for gamers.
Hey, what's up, everybody? So this is a really good lesson. I think the number one reason is, I'll say it right now, I'll just give it away. If there wasn't social media, I honestly think the story we're about to share would have actually just played out, and no one would ever hear about it. The people would have been wronged, and another corporation would have gotten away with murder. So no one actually died yet, anyways. But we're gonna talk into this scandal of it's a Lego scandal, and it's probably another thing. Lego hasn't spoken about it, which is fine. I don't think they have to, but
Yeah.
I think it's actually hurting the Lego brand. I think the Lego brand itself, if this gets any bigger, needs to step in and just just clear their name, because I think it's one of those things where
Yeah.
everyone's guilty. But let's get into it. What actually happened?
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story. So, affi- allegedly, allegedly, what happened is there's a family where there was this guy who has been collecting Lego Star Wars. It's one of the biggest Lego Star Wars collections that we know about, and put it up for consignment with a Bricks and Minis franchise location, I believe, in Utah. So what that means, if you're not into the business world, is essentially they they put the Legos with the store so that they would sell them. They keep a small percentage of the profits and then distribute the rest to the actual owner. The reason the owner did this is he ran into some health complications that had a pretty big price tag on them. So he actually went through, gave these minifigs to the store for them to sell, and the majority of the proceeds would go to the owner, and then Bricks and Minifigs would get a small cut as being the merchant that is selling this stuff. So what was interesting about this is they had this agreement, everything was written down. Then the ownership of the store changed, and there was a dispute between the new owners and the existing owner, like the collector, and eventually they basically essentially allegedly stole all of these Legos from the collector, and did not provide them with any of their money. There's been a YouTuber that you'll see one of the videos in the background, Reckless Ben, who's been doing like an in-depth investigation into this, and exposing a lot of different corruption, different stuff we'll get into. But the reason that we think this is something like every business owner should look into is how Bricks and Minifigures has responded. They have been playing this game of like, oh, we didn't do anything wrong, trying to put out all these PR fires, and they are consistently maintaining that this agreement that the collector made with the original owner was unauthorized, not approved under their franchise rules, and thus they are completely innocent, don't have to do anything, they don't have to pay for the Legos or anything. It's the collector's problem. They have nothing to do with it, and they kind of just move on.
Yeah, I think it's really the reason why we're covering it is not just because it's hot and viral, but really it's a real good lesson. It's almost a real live case study, and we'll get to see how it plays out because the court is involved in multiple ways. It's probably we won't get the lesson from this fully in the years from now, but enough has happened, enough PR nightmare has occurred that I think it's really important because I was trained the way the Bricks Minifigs has been running is typical corporate America, especially when you
Hmm.
have the leverage and the power. And so it's a real good lesson, I think, for traditional business owners that whatever you think used to work doesn't necessarily mean it works today, and really reflect on how the world works in light of corporate mistakes. And when you
Hmm.
make a clear mistake, it really, I think it's almost really funny as we go through their. So, what you currently said there, one quick thing I want to clarify is it was the owner's son because the father got sick and was in the hospital and
That's good.
wasn't,
Yeah, good point
and
of
so the
clarification.
son took over or took his Lego collection and was selling it on behalf of his dad, and really it's a convoluted. The more we'll try and keep it clear, but the biggest thing you need to try and remember is at the end of the day, a dude was trying to sell his Lego collection. Every time one of them sold, one portion should have gone to the collector, and one portion should have gone to the store. It changed owners, and somehow the original owner, the collector, received nothing, and the corporation kept the entire collection. And as well as the previous owner, there's a little bit of muddying of the waters. And I think the other thing to
Mm.
say is neither one of us is attorneys. If you need legal services, seek an actual attorney. I think in this case, I'm not sure who seeked an attorney, but it seems like no one reached a real attorney, not even the corporation. Whoever is the attorney of the Bricks Minifigs, terrible at their job because they were not giving this owner, or they were like being ignored. That is very common. They probably were getting legal advice, and the CEO and the other managers were all just completely not paying attention and understanding how the rights work. And one of the clarification, their stance is that it's not right that there was a consignment agreement, but you'll see
Yeah.
in the evidence that there actually was okay. The actual agreement that they signed, the previous owner and the corporation, that consignment was allowed. So I just wanted to clear the air because that really annoys me because Bricks and Minifigs to this day still, at least as of the last thing we saw, still stands by that a consignment agreement is not allowed, even though the very agreement
Mhm.
they signed with that previous owner shows it was allowed. So just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's not allowed. Like I don't understand how they continue to ignore their own legal agreements and then say it's not allowed when like
Yeah.
you signed it saying it's allowed. So it's just uh anyways,
Yeah.
let's go one step further into this nightmare of a situation.
Yeah, so I think there's different elements of this that we want to take different things out of. And there's basically like kind of six lessons that I saw through here that through different elements of the store that I think people can take away from this. And the first thing is on that exact topic of like, you really want to make sure that any contracts, any agreements, any sort of documentation, anything like that is not ambiguous and is clearly spelled out because this is where this whole consignment agreement thing is breaking down is it was like the agreement itself is pretty clear, but what is unclear is Brick and Minifigs is saying, "Oh, this was never allowed. There was no element of this that was legal, even though they had some people sign off on it." And then it was also the actual documentation of the consignment agreement was written poorly. So legally, and again, like Roman said, we're not attorneys, so there's no like specific thing we can say about like how it legally stands. But the fact that this is still like an issue and there's not like an immediate, because most contracts I have signed have been like, if you fail to do X, Y happens. The fact that this is still like they, the consignment agreement has fallen through. They did not provide the collector with the money that he was owed. Shows that this contract was written poorly because if had not received, if the contract had been written properly, had been written clearly, if he had not been given what was owed based on the consignment agreement, Bricks and Minifigures, that location would have legally been obligated to pay him that, and should have been something in the contract that was easily enforceable. But that's not the case.
Yeah, I think there was an original inventory. I think the problem is no one managed that inventory. I think the
Hmm.
majority, from what we understand, is was at corporate, but even the previous owner had some in her home or something like that. So that part doesn't make sense. The day that they recorded being in the store, which has been playing in the background on your monitor a couple times, they actually
Hmm.
showed the inventory that was in the store. I honestly think it's an accounting nightmare, which is really a great lesson for you. You should have really good accounting. If you're going to do a consignment agreement, imagine there's 10 items on consignment. Those 10 items should be well tracked. You should know where
Yeah.
they are in the store. It's kind of crazy that they had no idea. And the Bricks and Minifigs folks were very vague, super vague. And they're still vague to this day as to where all the individual items are. They just say all these annoying corporate buzzwords that actually don't mean anything. They mean more ambiguous. So yeah, so they probably did start right, but after day zero, it seems like it fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
And the change in ownership really did seem to be the number one thing that ruined the relationship.
Yeah.
And it seemed like she
Yeah,
had to. Mhm.
I do actually know the
Okay.
situation
Mhm.
there. They had not been paying their license agreement. So for franchises, how that business model works is you are paying a licensing fee to a greater organization for the ability to actually run an operation. You have run a business model. So the owner of that Bricks and Minifigures location is not the owners of Bricks and Minifigures themselves. They just own that one location. So every year, every month, however the franchise is set up, you have to pay a franchising fee. This person allegedly had close to 150 to $200,000 in franchise fees that they had not paid. So that's why that owner allegedly sold.
Wow. So I think the biggest lesson here is no one is, in this case, almost no one is free of sin or is like a blameless victim. But a lot of folks are very bad. A lot of folks did some really bad things, and the YouTuber is probably the least of the folks who did things wrong. The YouTuber, this reckless Ben fellow, did the least wrong thing, and the collector, his mistake is just not being very thorough and understanding who he
Yeah.
was doing business with, which is really hard. You know,
Hmm.
as a business owner, what are you gonna do? Walk in and say, "Hey, before I give you 200,000 of toys, you got any legal concerns or you have any franchise problems?" Like, you're not gonna ask that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's probably a chance he didn't even know it was a franchise. So there's a little bit of a lack of due diligence on the part of the collector giving away his stuff to someone else to sell. And
Yeah.
it makes sense why they were so aggressive. When you see the videos, Bricks Minifigs basically kicked the lady out. And it, you know, from what I see, like they literally tell her to get out now and leave and never come back. And now that you're saying that story, maybe they had some precedence on it, but it just seemed the visuals on it just seem so terrible because she really and she willingly walks away from it all. So I think there
Hmm.
is a part of that story we're not getting where she got to just, you know, if I do this, I'm free of this nightmare. Maybe they told her, you know, I could see her, you know, it's funny that you say that she owed 150, 200 because that's allegedly what the price of that collection is. So you could imagine the corporate CEOs, they're saying, hey, we don't even allow consignment agreements. So this isn't even a real argument. This is our stuff. Like, I could see
Hmm.
a corporate America solution saying, hey, we don't have to acknowledge that. And them not understanding how agreements work or their own agreements. And they're just assuming what they know to be true because they don't allow it anywhere else.
Yeah, it's interesting because the other thing to consider with that is like Bricks and Minifigs is not like a small company. So 200,000 in the scope of a company like Bricks and Minifigs is probably not actually that much. I'm gonna look it up right now because I'm curious now, like
Yeah, but
how big of a
I think you're 100% true that they're a $1 million company. Who cares about 200,000? But as you see the behavior of management, there are some petty, greedy guys. Like these
yeah.
guys would,
Yeah,
these guys,
they're
if they had a cookie sale, and for some reason the sale of the cookies was $1.50, they would want their change back. If they walked up to a cookie sale and handed them $2, they would say, "Give me my 50 cents." Like even if it's a charity event, like these guys have really, they're pretty. Like the fact that they haven't backed down at all. And by the way, as of I think a couple days ago, they did back down. They were interviewed by a news
mm-hmm.
channel, and they finally. But it was such a funny interview. The news channel basically had to out them and say to. So are you saying you gave less than what you received? Like they literally said. The news had to call him out on it, and he actually
Yeah.
agreed. He says, "Yes, we did not give them the full payout of what they were owed." I'm like, that is like by definition. That's literally theft. That is literally the legal definition of theft. You gave someone less than what they were owed,
Yeah.
and so much time has passed. Why didn't you just cut a check when you knew if for some reason, right? I owe you $10 and I give you $5. How long did it take you to realize you still owe me another $5? And when you realize you owe the $5, how long do you cut the check? I don't think they ever cut a
Mm.
check. I think that to this they're bending over backwards trying to figure this out, but they've never cut a check. And I don't think they were. That's the first time that they've given up the ghost that they actually paid out less than what they paid. That what it was so crazy.
Yeah, and that transitions to pretty much exactly the next thing I want to talk about is all of this is they're giving like internal procedural excuses, like these are things going on the inside of the company. Customers do not care about the internal complications of an organization. Like they don't care that this owner maybe did something out of their purview. They don't care that like, oh, this isn't an agreement we typically allow. They care. Like the reason people are talking about this is because there's a guy who was sick. His son was selling his Lego collection to pay for medical bills, and this company allegedly just completely screwed him over. Like people don't care about this owner complication. They don't care about this agreement maybe not being the approved thing. They care that it took you far too long to actually do something about it.
Yeah, it it they the corporate headquarters continues to blame the previous owner for all these things, and to your point, nobody cares. Like no, like that they think they actually corporate. This is a great PR thing. Corporate actually believes it's an adequate defense of their actions. The previous
Hmm.
owner should not have done consignment. The previous owner should not have inventory in her home. The previous owner should not have just, I don't know, they come up with other excuses like left and the records were in shambles. Like nobody cares. Like we're going to business for one place. They all seem to have the same name. That's an internal problem with your franchise model. Like
Yeah.
it makes absolute. I don't know how they can't seem why they keep using that as a victim card. Like we're the victims. This lady is
Hmm.
terrible. She's terrible at business. I'm just like this. The name of the store is Bricks and Minifigs. Like what? Who cares how she acted?
Yeah.
That. Why were you? Why did she have 150 to 200,000 in licensing unpaid debt? Like, what's the story on that? Like, why did you let that go uncontrolled for so long? That's a whole other
Yeah.
conversation here, and it goes back to you as a franchiser. Sounds like you were not running business well on your end to let someone dig a hole that deep, and then you're holding a noose
Seriously.
around their neck. And then there was a call, right? There's such a corporate call. I don't know the name, the fellow, the name. He's not very high in New York. He sounds like a mid-level manager. He's not a C-suite. But on the call, he says something to the effect of, "If you want to fight this legally, it's gonna take years to resolve this legally." Like the guy is literally such a corporate bully, threatening this
Hmm.
lady, telling her that if you wanna use lawyers with us, go ahead, we'll drag this baby out, and you'll never see the light of day.
Yeah.
It is such a it is such a sad reality that that is the way corporations will choose to work. And I think without the invention of social media, I'll say it again, without social media, he would have got away with all of his comments. So you as a business owner, you should probably record every conversation you have and let the other parties know you're recording it, because in the world we live in today, people are just terrible, like,
Yeah.
absolutely terrible.
Yeah. We'll definitely get into that a little bit more.
Okay.
But it's interesting because like on this like internal excuse side, like what they're saying we don't actually know if what they're saying is in fact 100% true or partially true or whatever. But the reality is, even if everything they're saying is 100% true, this owner operated out of it. They've already lost the PR war. And the more and more they dig in, it's not going to help them. And whoever is responsible for PR for Bricks and Minifigs needs to be fired, and they need to hire someone else because they have just messed it up at every single turn. Because, like I said at the beginning, customers don't care about these excuses. They want results.
I think it's a
Which,
generational mistake, though. You talk about PR. I don't think there is no one in PR. They didn't have a PR because they operate on the old model that we can do whatever the heck we want. We are the big guys. Everyone else is small. Outside of Lego, like they only respect size and power. These guys do not
yeah.
respect common sense, dignity, ethics, doing the right thing. These guys don't honor any of that. We are the boss, you are the minions, and you will put up
Hmm.
with what we say because we are big and you are small. And the sad thing is that before social media that actually worked. I truly believe they would have
Yeah.
got away with everything if not for social media, if not for YouTube. The loss, the legal system, to that rotten kid's point, it would have dragged out for 10 years. The guy probably would have died, would be dead. The father would have passed away of natural causes or whatever he's sick from, and this case would still be in the court system, just dancing around, waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that also transitions to the next thing. Like, what you need, one of the things, if you're, objective third party, you don't care about Legos, you don't care about all of this. The one of the biggest things, other than the social media internet thing, we'll get into that too, but your reputation is worth far more than just being right. Because even it, like I said before, even if everything they're saying is technically correct, how many people have seen this news, have seen how Bricks and Minifigures is responding to all of this stuff, and have decided, well, I will never be buying anything from them ever again. They have spent so much money trying to defend themselves, and it's just they're digging in more and more and more, and just continuing to destroy any goodwill, any reputation that they've ever had before. Because if you're a business, you cannot be a long-term successful business if you do not treat your customers very well. You can screw someone like, think about a mechanic. A mechanic can screw someone over one time, and that maybe make a bunch of money off of the person that they screwed over. But that person is going to tell every single person they know, never go back to this guy again. He screwed me over. Don't trust him. Now, on the flip side, if you do treat your customers well and serve them, and maybe you take a slight loss on something because you do a good job, and maybe it wasn't the most high paying job or whatever, but they tell everyone, Romans really treated me right. I can actually trust Romans to do a good job, and when he says something's going to get done, it's going to get done. And that's how you actually build a sustainable business, a long-term business, by building that reputation, building up the quality of what the work you do and how you treat your customers.
Yeah, I think there is a point that I think a lot of customers are spoiled, and they're saying the customer's always right. I've actually never believed in that. The customer isn't always right. But in the age of PR, when you want to call someone wrong, you just need to do your homework to make sure they are actually wrong. Because the beautiful thing about it, though, is the lies will spread faster than the truth. But if you're right, eventually the truth will get there, and you'll be free of what you did. Like if you fire a bad customer, because I fire bad customers all the time. There are really bad customers out there. They're just not worth. They pay you 20% of your time, and they take up 80. They pay you 20% of what it's worth, and take up 80% of your time. But in this
Mm-hmm.
case, with these guys, is I like we are trying to be as fair as possible. And I've yet the only thing I can give them is that the previous owner actually did have some faults in this, but they don't really have any real reason to support the actions that they've done. Like, whether the other thing that they're fighting on is the value isn't really two. The value really isn't 200,000, guys. It's like 100,000. That's not an excuse that anyone cares about, right?
Yeah.
Like, 100,000 is a lot of money for at least for most people. Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
200 or 100, that's still a lot. It would have mattered if it was a collection only worth 1,000, right? So they've been saying it's worth 200,000, and it's only worth $1,000, and then I think you could have had something. But I don't understand why they think 100,000 makes it less of an excuse for them to steal it, because essentially that's what you
Yeah.
did, and that's what he admitted to. He literally said, "We did not give him the full value that they were owed."
Yeah.
How long did it take your accountants to figure this out? Because if you knew on day 1 or day 10 or day 20, because we're at least 3 months in, I think we're somewhere 3 months or longer, 5 months, 6 months. Your accounting team took forever to figure this out, and you should have
Yeah.
immediately fell on the sword. And I think that to your point, the number one reason why their whole like reputation's in the mud is the excuses they have are so minor compared to
Mm-hmm.
the negative things they've done, especially the bullying that they've done to this reckless YouTuber Ben guy. They got
Yeah.
the guy swatted. Have you? Is that in here? Is
Mm-hmm.
this in here later? Oh,
No, but
okay,
we can
okay,
talk about it
okay. So
now.
he got
Yeah.
swatted, and he got arrested. Like, and you, the video of the fellow, I forget what his role is. He's not the CEO, but he's like somewhere below the CEO. He's an executive owner, I believe. Uh, he was in his standing outside his home and crying to the police all these wacky, crazy excuses to get rid of the YouTuber who was doing what he had a legal right to. And the police even told him he has a right to be where he is. He's not anywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
then the guy like made like all these crazy accusations that he's coming to murder his family and like the wildest comments. Like, don't you think this is gonna get out that you said that? Like, how does the police? I don't know if you have this in there. The police. Do you have this about the police in here somewhere? So we'll keep it light. But the police have handled this so poorly. They botched it so many ways to Sunday. They've done so many poor actions, but they have body cameras. What do you think those
Yeah.
body cameras are doing? And this is another lesson: don't piss off the internet. Someone hacked the police. Did you see that they hacked the police and got the
I didn't see that part. No.
someone hacked the police and got the unredacted videos. The police knew they did
Mm.
wrong. They started redacting all kinds of videos. Someone actually got the unredacted copies and could show the police saying the wildest things to do what the corporate wants instead of just doing their job to protect and serve. Like, so whatever the police, I honestly think the police are in deep trouble. You think Bricks has bad PR? This entire police department has super bad PR because they willingly, oh God, it's so bad. The one part where that one cop says, "Stop resisting arrest," and like he grabbed the guy, like the police officer grabbed his arm aggressively, and it "Stop resisting, don't do that," and it's so obvious. Literally, the cop is the one yanking his arm. It's so like, dude, have some common sense. You're on camera. It's on your own body.
Yeah.
Or go to Hollywood and learn how to act because your acting was so ridiculous. Oh man.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree, and this goes into what I think is the biggest lesson is internet, social media, it captures everything and that is forever. Like as soon as something gets on the internet, that's not going away because, 20 like you said 20, 30 years ago, probably no one would know about this. It would be one customer that got screwed over, maybe a lawsuit that would go to court and fizzle out and do whatever, and then no one would hear about this. But because of YouTube, because of like everyone on Reddit, because of like just now national media, like the CEO was on Fox News being interviewed about this, like all because a YouTuber picked this up and it blew up. Like this is just the reality of business today. Like every customer interaction you have has the risk of potentially going viral if you mess up. So, like, it's common sense. You should treat your customer well regardless. But if you don't, there is now an army of people on social media, on the internet that will, if you screw up and are caught, you will never get to forget it.
And I think that's the problem. Did they screw up? And that's where it really matters. Did you actually make a
Mm-hmm.
mistake? Did you do something that you didn't have a right to do? Because I think a lot of people are screaming on the internet for things that should be, but you should know your legal rights. And I think the problem here is the ego of the management of this company is that they don't care what is right. They want to do what they want to do, and whatever they say goes. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson for anyone who listens to this who might be over the age of 40. You can't do that anymore. You literally can't bully people. If you really did something wrong, the best
Mm-hmm.
answer is to own it, especially if you're really wrong. If you're not wrong and the internet just doesn't like it, you're probably okay doing it. You'll still get the hate and all that, but at least in the end, when truth finally catches up to the lie,
Yeah.
you'll be fine. But you got to be able to weather the storm, and you have to weather the pain of waiting for the truth to come through. But in this
Mm-hmm.
case, there's no one coming.
Yeah.
You were a bully. You're greedy. You clearly didn't give them the money that you now admit that they are owed. You harassed the craziness out of this YouTuber, who, by the way, if the news was still the way the news used to be, where they would actually do investigations, like I can't remember, there was a show. Man, I can't quite remember it. It was on NBC, I think. John Stossel. Remember the John? I don't know if you ever watched John Stossel. John
I did not
Stossel.
know.
No, you don't even know that name. That name means nothing to you. What a
Nope.
generational leap. And there's people before John Stossel. So John Stossel is the old version of Reckless Ben. The only difference is
Mm-hmm.
TV paid him to be an investigative journalist, and he
Oh
really
yeah.
would expose fraud the exact same way Reckless Ben is. The difference between now with social media is we don't need big networks to do it. And most news networks these days is really politically leaning. It's just such a sad state of
Yeah.
affairs
Well,
for traditional news.
and like if you go back even further than that, you have like Watergate. Like the reason Watergate got exposed was it was investigative reporters that actually were able to follow the paper trail and like actually figure out like, oh, this was something. Like this was not nothing, because for a while people just assumed it was kind of nothing. And then as the investigative journalists did their job, which is investigative journalists are now on YouTube, not hired by newspapers, not hired by news companies. Like the real and like there's other people that have been exposing a bunch of stuff, but like that's it's not happening on these big news companies. It's happening by like one, two small teams, like one or two man small teams that are just like actually going and finding out what's happening.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad because it's honestly, as soon as Ben, I really think this could have been solved the moment Reckless Ben pulled up and just said, "Hey, can we talk about it?" And I have these facts, and you knew he was right. If you just admitted it then, I think it would have just died off. It would have been
Yeah.
like, okay, I found
Oh,
it.
100%.
Here's your collection. Here's what's left of it. The accounting, and you could have said something like accounting's looking into it, but we at least know we owe you 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, whatever the number is. Here's a check for that. We'll get you more later when we figure it out. Honestly,
Yeah.
this would be a no story, or it would be a little
Yeah.
bit of a story. You would have got a little bit of a sizzle. I actually think this is the end. I actually think, and you know it's bad because the other Lego stores in that area are being harassed out of their minds. There's another Lego store,
Mm,
completely unrelated, different name, but they sold Legos and they were getting the same threats and hate and nasty grams from the internet. If I had to call the future, I think the Bricks and Minifigs company is done by the end of this.
yeah.
Whatever the end of this is, uh, yeah, it it's gonna be
Yeah.
it's so Joe over for them, and to think to think all you had to do was give the dude his stuff or such a simple
Yeah.
solution. Yeah, and they
Yeah. That
and to
goes
your
into the next.
well, one thing I'll just say is they've lost more than the price, whatever this was worth. They've
Oh,
lost the
by
damages
far.
that have been caused. The PR that they've self-inflicted themselves has nothing to do with whatever. Obviously, Reckless Ben and them definitely made it worse. But oof,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. It ties into the second to last thing here is if leadership had acted fast, if they had had like been able to respond quickly and somewhat control the narrative, we wouldn't have had all these speculation, all of this like mystery things. Like finally, like you said, like a couple days ago from record or when we're recording this, the CEO did finally cave and admit like, hey, yeah, we did actually screw up. You say that 3 months into this? Like if you had said that week one, week two, like this would like to that point would probably be nothing if you had just responded quickly and addressed like you said, hey, we know something went wrong. We don't know exactly what yet, but we are working to make it right. We're going to figure this out and make sure that we make it right and we'll be transparent instead of thinking that you can bully both the old store owner, the new store owner, the collector, all of these people into doing what you want so that you can make some extra money. Like we said, we're talking about a 95 million a year organization crying about $200,000. That doesn't make sense.
I think the leadership had a years of bullying people and have never lost until now. And there is another layer to this. There's a religious layer to this. There's a lot of Mormonism going on. This is Utah, and there's a lot of suspicious activity that can only be explained by the power of the Mormon Church. And I'll tell you, that's like Mormons are not Christians. I just want to be open about that. There's no way that they're Christians. But I'll tell you one cool thing is I've never met a bad Mormon. Like I've personally never met a bad Mormon. But this company, bunch of bad ones, a lot of bad ones. A lot of them wear badges and have guns and are cops. And it's just so obvious they're protecting their own.
Yeah.
But it's cool on the plus side how they do protect their own. But I just wish it was only when they're doing good things. They shouldn't protect bad guys, and it happens in every culture. The Catholic Church has it with priests, like every and the atheist corporate America, whatever you want to call China, they protect their own as well. Most folks protect their own, but it would be cool if we only did it when people did good things. When you do bad things, I don't think they should have been protected. They should have been called out. The police just have to do their job. Like the one part where they were trying to serve, there's one part where Reckless Ben's trying to serve this fellow with a lawsuit, and the police literally had the paperwork in his hands, and all he had to do was go to the guy and say, "You've been served," and you can literally see the unredacted camera footage of the cop saying, "You don't want this?" And then he says, "Can I read it?" The guy even says, "Do you mind if I read it?" And the cop says, "That will put me in a weird place if I let you read it." That means that officer knew exactly what would happen if he handed the guy his paper. He would have been served, and the situation would have been handled. So you have to think in your mind, why would an officer who knew if I let him just read it? And the guy's lying. Like he literally says there's no real lawsuit. The guy literally, the fellow whose home is trying to be served by Reckless Ben, he says multiple times everything here is fake. None of this is real. That's not real papers to serve me. And the cops confirmed that there is a real case. And still, you can literally see the body cam footage of the cop saying, "I can't let you read it. I can't give it to you. It'll put me in a weird place." And all I can think is, this is the problem. This is why now, these cops are going to probably, bad things will happen to them that shouldn't have happened. And why this company probably won't exist. Because those key moments right there where you knew you could do the right thing. You're 1 second away from doing the right thing. And due to other reasons, we won't know why, you willingly choose to do the wrong thing. And I really think that's, you're talking about leadership must act fast. Leadership must act right and fast, not just act fast. Because clearly they've been acting super fast, but literally doing everything they can to bully these people into submitting into what they want.
Yeah.
The swatting and raiding part is got to be the cake for me. The fact that they got swatted, the Airbnb was swatted. Like, just think about what it makes almost no sense that they got that approved. They got a judge to approve the swatting. You know what that tells me? Never do business in certain states. It's just not. It's not safe.
Yeah.
It's not safe. You clearly, this is what they're willing to do for this small thing. Imagine if you had a big thing, what they're willing to do. If they're willing to do this on a small, who cares? They're willing to go this far for that. Why would you ever do something big in that state? Which is a really big lesson that I'm taking away from it. I don't think I'll ever do business, honestly, in the state of Utah. Like I'm just writing off that entire state because I am shocked and saddened by what this is, and that state is officially off. There's other states that I don't do business in because it's just not worth it. Like money isn't worth the headache. And there's certain countries I won't do business in because it's also the same. Oh man, so bad.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild, absolutely wild. But it's something that we can definitely take some lessons from. Like, I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about, which we're running a little bit low on time, so I'll go through quickly, is like they clearly turned a business problem, what was like a business problem for Bricks and Minifigs, and turned it into their own personal vendetta on how they can prove that they were in the right instead of doing what was the best for the company and right by the collector and just figuring out a way to make them whole, to pay what was owed and make them whole. Instead, they decided to go to war with Reckless Ben, with the collector, with the previous owner, and figure out a way to make it right, and in the process have potentially destroyed their business for life.
That's right. Was it worth it? I think this is a great case study. Was it worth it? And the other thing is, if you don't know, real quick, look up the Streisand effect, because this is a great lesson on the Streisand effect. Barbara Streisand long ago tried to bury something by bullying people, and it just, when you silence the internet, it actually makes the internet go louder. So
Yeah.
don't try to silence the internet. Uh, it doesn't work. Literally doesn't work. Whether you're right or wrong, you can't silence the internet. It's the worst thing to do.
Yeah. It's it's interesting. I think this has been there's definitely some things you can learn from here. So I think it's good. But on a much different note, we have some actually really exciting news. We are pulling up to our 50th episode. The next episode we record will be our 50th episode. We want to thank you guys for making it possible for us to actually have a show. So we are actually going to be giving away $100. We'll give you some more details in our next episode. But until then, this has been Dollars Lifestyle and Charity, a finance podcast for gamers. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.